back to New World. There are a lot of things that have changed recently, especially with crafting, that threw me for a loop a little bit. So I thought it'd be helpful to just make a quick video showing you some things about crafting. So mainly what's changed is the aptitude rewards, right? So, if we go over to smelting here, I haven't spent a ton of time on it, but I've gotten up to, 7 full circles of aptitude. I did that in about 2 hours. The reason I did that, there are a few reasons for it, and we'll go through it. But what you do when you do those rewards is you get a few things. So for smelting, it's specifically vials of suspended azoth. You get the 2 components for osmodium, cinnabar and tolvium. You also get the blue flux, the obsidian flux. And for a variety of different trade skills, you get different results. So for mining, I also did that. I only got, I think, 1 full aptitude reward for it, but it was kind of the same stuff. So tolvium, cinnabar, a few other things like the siege damage insert, or craft mod, and some other craft mods. So your aptitude rewards can get some nice components. Now, again, that's really changed the market. So at least on my server, which is pretty packed, that's really lowered the price of tolvium and cinnabar dramatically. It hasn't quite gotten to osmodium yet, but it will. But anyway, I just wanted to get on here and just kind of walk through what crafting looks like with those aptitude rewards. So specifically, when I was doing leveling, I didn't really think about prices too much. Price of different components, because I just wanted to level as quickly as possible, right? So I wasn't too focused on the most efficient way, so much as the fastest way. So I'd mine a lot. I'd typically use those resources, get my leveling up. Smelting was the first trade skill that I leveled. I went pretty quickly, so I didn't really have to think about pricing. But now with those aptitude rewards and getting some things that at least right now are still kind of useful in tolvium and cinnabar, especially with Orichalcum ore going up in price, I just wanted to take a minute to kind of walk through how the pricing works. So, and this is where it gets kind of nuts. But let's go to the spreadsheet that I created. All right. So I think it's gotten to a point where if you're not going through and calculating the costs of what you're, producing, what you're crafting, then you're doing yourself a bit of a disservice. So what I did is I went through and just created this quick worksheet that pulls from all of the prices in the trading post. So again, my server highly populated, so some of these prices might be a bit of a shock, especially if you're on a lower population server. But let's look at Orichalcum ingots, right? So right now, those are listed for around 19 gold. Not too crazy, actually a bit higher than it was a while back. Ore for that, though, is up to 1.2 now. I think just yesterday it was below 1. And that's because people are taking advantage of this function right here, where you can create cinnabar or create tolvium with that ore. What I wanted to show you is that that's actually not smart. You actually don't want to do that. Mainly because it's just so costly, but also because those aptitude rewards, those just turn out really, really fast. And there are actually methods that you can use to make money as you're doing those aptitude rewards. So that's why I created the spreadsheet, was to figure out how you can make money doing these aptitude rewards that get you tolvium, get you cinnabar, get you crafting osmodium, and also this logic you can apply to anything else. Like, I don't want to go into too many details, because 1, we'll get lost in the weeds, and 2, often has as many ways to make money. But for instance, just crafting motes into quintessences, depending on the quintessence, can definitely be rewarding. So air quintessences, those are really, really cheap right now. You do not want to craft those. Soul quintessences, though, those are used in the las orbs. So those actually go for, a decent amount. And if we look at soul motes, those are pretty underpriced. So, without going into, too much math, you get 20% increase each time. I think it's around, if you had a soul mote for 1 gold, that would translate into a quintessence for about 50, with all the different costs included. So if you just buy soul motes and craft those into soul quintessences right now, you can make somewhere around 10 gold per craft. And again, you can break that out in Excel and just figure out where exactly that lines up. But for our purposes, I just wanted to show you how you can make money just using smelting as an example. So what I've done is I've gone through and pulled all of the prices in the trading post right now. And I've just thrown those into this sheet, and those prices are referenced here, right? So silver ingots, what you need to craft a silver ingot is you need 4 ore. Ore costs 0.14 gold right now. Silver ingots sell for 0.3 though. So you need 4 ore, you have the 20% chance, there's no flux involved, so you have a 20% chance either way if you're 200 smelting. What that means is the actual craft cost for an ingot is 0.49, okay? The market price is 0.3, so you're actually losing money whenever you craft a silver ingot. It'd be far cheaper to just buy the ingots outright. Obviously, if you went and mined them, what that means is that you would be more effective just selling the ore than in crafting the ingots. Especially for this lower tier stuff, I'm not really taking XP into account, but for this lower tier stuff, especially silver and gold, you're not getting much XP from it. You get more XP from higher tier crafts. So, especially for silver and gold, you're actually going to be losing money and not really getting much XP whenever you do those crafts, as opposed to just selling the raw materials outright. But let's go through the spreadsheet in detail. I'm kind of circling around it because it can be a little bit overwhelming. But what I have lined up is all the different aspects in crafting, so that if you create a similar spreadsheet, you can get an idea of what exactly the costs look like. And let's just go ahead and zoom in a bit, make this really easy to read. Okay. So we have all the components that you would need to make an auric alchemy ingot, right? That's what I originally created this for, was to see if I was making money or losing money crafting auric alchemy ingots. But let's just go, cell by cell. So for silver ingots, you don't need any prior ingots, so we don't worry about that. You need 4 ore, that's static, right? So it's just set in place. Price varies, right? So we're just referencing that right here. We don't need any flux, so those are just included to keep things consistent. And we have a 20% bonus. There's no flux, so we just have 20% bonus across the board. I did include tax just to be thorough. Obviously, they'll vary based on your territory standing. I was doing these crafts in Morningdale because I wanted to build, make a bigger house at the time. So that's where I was doing all my crafting to get additional standing. By the way, crafting, great way to get additional standing. That said, here's where it all comes together, right? So what you want to do is pretty simple. Is you're just going to take the ore, right, times the price, and then you're going to also include your percentage for procking, right? So, I'm not 100% confident in this math. If I'm wrong, please let me know in the comments. But I'm pretty sure this is very, at the very least, very close or ballpark to what it actually is, right? But the logic here is that you take that actual cost, and then you divide it by 1 plus your proc percent. What that means is we actually have a 120% chance of crafting, right? So you have a 100% chance to craft one and a 20% chance to craft another, which equals 120% overall. So what this means is over time, it aims to include those procs in your crafting cost so that you can calculate that as well. Obviously, it's the same for either flux, again, since we don't have any flux. And then what I do, and this is just, kind of quality of life for me, basically, but I include the market price, right? So I reference the price down here. I compare that. Oh, don't need to do that. I compare that, kind of complicated formula here, nothing crazy, but basically it just compares the market price against these two prices. And it just tells you whether or not you should be buying the ingot or you should be selling the crafted result. Okay. And then this is just margin, again, just a simple calculation. So I use the min function here to return the lowest of these two options. And of course, I just originally take the market price minus those two crafted options. So what this means here is, of course, that we're losing about 0.2 gold per craft. And then finally, I have a calculation here just for, again, based on the crafting cost, which flux you should use. So there are instances, when prices vary, of, times when you should or at least could use the green flux, the lower tier flux, as opposed to the blue, obsidian flux. Green is shell dust. Especially here with gold, right? We can see that the crafting cost is pretty similar. So if you just had a bunch of green flux in the bank, you might want to just use it here. Similarly for ore calcum ingots, it's not that much of a difference. You could get away with it. Platinum ingots, though, it's a full 1 gold difference. And the difference in price between these two fluxes, at least on my server right now, again, blue is going down because it's included in those with those aptitude chests, right? The difference in price between those is they're pretty close. So, it would definitely be in your interest to just buy the blue flux and craft using that blue flux, especially if you're doing it, doing a lot of it, than it would be to just use the green flux. Okay. All right, but let's take a look at a more complicated example. So ore calcum only varies slightly because we include charcoal, whereas the others don't. But gold and platinum are exactly the same as each other. So there's a bit more going on. So first, we have the prior ingots, right, that's static. Next, we have the price. So what I've done here is I've taken the lowest value between the two crafting cost options, which for silver are the same, and the market price option. Okay, so this assumes that what you're doing over here, or what it tells you to do over here, is what you're actually doing, right? So over here it's saying, instead of crafting, you want to just buy the ingots. And if you do buy the ingots, right, then we do have this lowest price, which is 0.3 gold, right? So if you were crafting gold ingots, you would want to buy 2 silver ingots, then 5 ore is really low on my server. We include the green flux price, we include the proc percent, we include the blue flux and proc percent, tax again, and this is the final result, right? So we've got B3, which is the number of ingots, times C3, which is the number of ore, or I'm sorry, the price of the ingot. Then we've got plus D3, which is the number of gold ingots times the price of those ingots, right? Plus F3, which is the green flux price. Okay, so that's the base cost right here. And again, that's for the green shell dust flux crafting option. And then again, we divide by 1 plus the proc percent to get our actual crafting results included in the crafting cost calculation. Same thing for calculating with obsidian flux. The only difference, of course, is including obsidian flux. But we can see that it's a pretty substantial change between 40% and 65%. Here it's only what is that, 0.08 or 0.06 gold, right? In the margin, again, not that different from the actual market price, but you are still, based on these calculations, losing money if you craft gold ingots. Now, platinum is where it gets interesting. Again, just on my server, I've seen platinum ingots shoot up in price to, I think it was around 6.5, somewhere around there. And the reason for that is that, of course, you can use platinum now to craft ore calcum ingots, right? So that's why they're shooting up in price, and they're the better option. I haven't calculated it for star metal because I just kind of know that star metal is going to be worse, just right off the bat, just based on taking a quick look at the prices. Okay, but that said, platinum ingots, same thing. We just have the number, we have the price, which is referenced down here, right? Again, we're using the lowest price, so we're taking the 1.13 as opposed to the 1.36 that we would have as the lowest option if we crafted it. We have the ore included in the price. We have the green flux, and then we have the prop percentages included in our calculation. And then we can see that the margin is pretty substantial. We're getting around, I would say 0.4, just because there are additional fees to list it, right? And you might be sitting on these ingots for a little while. Who knows? For me, I sell them same day. I just list them for 24 hours and they're off the market pretty quickly. But the short version of all this, the summary that we can take away from everything is that you actually can get paid for crafting, right? You actually can get money. Now, obviously, if you made 10,000 platinum ingots, you're going to be sitting on those for a while, and the price might plummet a bit because other people are going to be creating those too. So you don't want to go overboard, right? You want to manage the market and not get too crazy. But I mean, I think yesterday I crafted 1,000. They were all sold the same day. I made a profit on it. Didn't have to think too hard about it, and of course probably went up maybe one full circle of the Aptitude wheel doing that. Well, okay, probably a lot less than that for just 1,000. But you see what I'm saying? This is a way that you can get those Aptitude rewards, or just increase your level if you're still leveling up, right? While actually making money doing it. And you can use this logic, right? Which again is just taking the actual crafting cost, which you can pull from the market, and you can pull from the individual stations to see what resources you need, and then just including the proc percentage in your calculations to see when you're going to be making money and when you're going to be losing money. But again, the summary is you can absolutely be making money when you're crafting, and as another summary or conclusion that I've taken away is green flux is really not worth your time based on these prop percentages. So I mean, there are times when, especially if you have a bunch on you, you might want to use it, but I mean, here we can see it's a full gold difference before you would want to start using green flux. So if obsidian flux were listed for over 2 gold, right, then you might want to start using shell dust flux. And I was really surprised to see these results because I have been using a lot of shell dust flux just without thinking about it. But you definitely want to start doing these calculations now that Aptitude is a thing, and now that you can start doing these evaluations. Okay, so that was pretty deep dive. I hope that was helpful for you guys. You might have just rolled your eyes and tuned out as soon as Excel opened. I don't know. But if you have any questions about this, definitely let me know. I'm happy to walk through these things. Of course, if there are any improvements I can make on that spreadsheet, I'd love to hear them. Happy holidays, and hope you found some use in this video. Thanks.